Ugh, I feel ridiculous. Why did I set myself up for this? Hello, children. It's me, Mr. Crandall, and my kids and I kind of had a bet that last week, if they all did their attendance and got most of their work done, that I would do a lesson in footy pajamas. And lucky for all of you guys, I am doing this lesson for all of third grade. So here's my footies. There you go. And today we're going to be working on math, and we're going to be specifically working on 3D shapes. And so it's going to be just a non-stop laugh riot. Ugh, I'm too hot in this thing. I got to change. So that's a little better. I'm a little cooler now. And we're going to start with a little bit of a math message here. So I have here what looks a lot like our pattern blocks from school. And I'm going to just trace around the edges here. And when I do that, well, it doesn't look perfect, but basically what shape do I get there? Yeah, I get a square, which is a kind of a rectangle. And right now, that is on a flat piece of paper, and so it would be considered 2D. It would be two-dimensional. And however, the actual piece is not two-dimensional. It doesn't just have length and width. It has length and width, and then it also has height. It has length and width and height. And we'll see if yeah, there we go. It's got length, it's got width, it's got height. It's got all of those 3 dimensions. Length, width, height. So it's got 3 dimensions. It's sometimes called 3D. It takes up space. It has length, width, and height. Now, the square pattern block is an example of a polyhedron. A polyhedron. That comes from Greek for poly, which means many, and hydra, which means face, many faces. That's a pretty good face. And in 3-dimensional shapes that have flat faces shaped like polygons, that's a polyhedron. If they have flat shapes that are shaped like polygons, it's polyhedron. So remember, a polygon is a closed figure with no no curves or anything like that. So only 3D shapes that have some sort of flat piece on them that has a polygon shape can be polyhedrons. And then there's a special kind of polyhedrons that are called prisms. And we're going to get into that in this lesson. All right, so here's a way that you can make a prism. You can take several of these pattern block type shapes and you can stack them up. So if I stack up several of these square pattern blocks, I get what's called a rectangular prism. I get what's called a rectangular prism because the prism is the 3D part of it, and then we've got these different pieces that are called faces and bases. The base of the prism is the one that's like whatever the polygon shape is. That's called the base. And so you get the name for the prism based on what the base is. So this one's a rectangular prism because it has rectangle bases. This next one I'm going to show you would be called a triangular prism. It has bases that are triangles, and then it makes these different faces that are shaped like rectangles, right? This is a rectangle shape here. It's a rectangle shape, but the face, the faces are rectangle shapes. The base is a triangle shape, so it's called a triangular prism. This one here is made out of hexagon pieces, so it would be called a hexagonal prism. So you see how each of the faces is really a rectangle, because that's what prisms are. But then the faces are hexagons or hexagonal. Man, Now I'm actually getting kind of cold, so I'm going to stop this. Goldilocks, I'm not too hot, not too cold, but just right. I wanted to show you this real quickly. On a triangular prism, you've got a base here and a base here. They're on opposite sides of the shape, and they're both shaped like a triangle, which is how it gets the name of a triangular prism. All of the faces on it are going to be shaped like rectangles, because as you stack up a bunch of little triangles, you make a rectangle on those sides. So that's a triangular prism. And I want to talk to you now about another one that's very common. In my opinion, maybe the most common of these prisms, of these 3D shapes and polyhedrons. And this would be a rectangular prism. It's got faces and bases as well. So like if we started on this side as a base, the opposite side is the same size, same shape, and it is also a rectangle, so it'd be called a rectangular prism. So in all, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then 5, 6 faces on this shape. Everywhere where a face meets another face is called an edge, and it's got a bunch of edges. And I keep counting it, and I keep getting it wrong. So I believe that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I believe it's 12 edges on this, where the faces meet. And then these points are where 1, 2, 3 faces meet. And those are called vertices. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 vertices. So different prisms have different numbers of faces and bases and vertices. But then there's some 3D shapes that aren't prisms at all. An example of that would be a sphere. A sphere is 3-dimensional, like it's not flat, but it doesn't have any faces or bases, so it can't be a prism and it can't be a polyhedron. I hear somebody playing harmonica out in the hallway, so that's exciting. Another shape that we see a lot that's 3D is a cylinder. A cylinder has some flat pieces. It's got like a circle face and another circle face, but it doesn't have any vertices. It doesn't have any pointy parts, and it doesn't really qualify then as a polyhedron because it doesn't have a polygon on the base. Because remember, circles aren't polygons because they have curved parts. So that is just kind of a quick rundown of prisms.